There has to be something special about blue when it comes to kids. I don't know. I just happened to find this and all right, so welcome everybody. Welcome. All right, so once again, it's the Weekend Health Talk show. It's another weekend, and I am blessed to be once again your host, OBESITY here. I do this weekly to help reduce the level of high misinformation pertaining to medical issues on social media. And I'm blessed to have friends, colleagues who are benevolent enough to offer us their time, precious time, to give us expert knowledge, expert information on topical medical issues. And today, we are blessed to have one of such. She's extremely busy. She's a mother of 3 kids. I think, is it 3, Annie? 3, right?
I'll tell you.
I think it's 3. Yes, 3 strong children. And she's a specialist pediatrician at Kolebu Teaching Hospital. If you have any idea what happens in that building, how busy they can be, but she offered to accept the invitation to be with us this afternoon or morning or evening, based on when you are watching this recording. Please, we are blessed to have Dr. Annie Owusu, specialist pediatrician, and she's going to talk to us on a very serious and a worrying trend, childhood obesity. Dr. Annie, over to you.
Thank you, Dr. Albert. Feels weird saying Dr. Annie, Dr. Albert, because we've been classmates for like years.
I know, right?
It's a bit strange, yeah. So today we find ourselves here. As you have bullied me into being here, dear, I'm here. But it's good to be here. And you know, when you asked me what I wanted to talk about, I didn't even hesitate before I said childhood obesity, because it's something I've talked about on other platforms because of what I have observed, dropping my kids at school, picking them from school, going to parties, children's parties, playgrounds, is an observation I've made. So it's a topic that, I mean, at any point in time when you stop me, I would not hesitate to talk about it. So I think it's in place that we discuss this because it's something we can do something about. And the earlier we start, the better it will be before we have on our hands not only an economic crisis, but also an obesity crisis. Yeah. So quickly, I should have done this before I started to share my screen, but let's see. I hope I don't have any challenges with that.
I am sure you won't. All right.
You can see my slides.
Live. Just put it in presentation mode and we are good to go.
Okay. We're good?
Yes, let's go.
Okay. Just a moment. All right, so we are talking about childhood obesity today because it's a worrying trend, something we need to talk about. So I tried my best to find a definition that is not too technical, that we can all understand. So we'll start with the general definition, then I'll try to break that down so that everybody understands without any mathematics calculations and all of that. So WHO defines childhood obesity as a BMI for child's age that is above a certain percentile. So for overweight, if it's above the 85th centile, but below the 95th centile for age and sex, then we call it overweight. If the BMI that you calculate for a child is above the 95th percentile for the age of the child and the sex, then we call it obese. Now, BMI is body mass index. It's a ratio of the weight to the height. So every height should have a corresponding weight. So this is what we use to calculate. The same thing you do for an adult, but for a child, you don't just calculate and then we have fixed values. We have a range of normal. When you finish calculating, you have to find a chart and insert this child's calculation into that chart. So this is the standard definition. Like I said, I try to make it not so technical. So if you look at the graph on the screen, there's a whole range of normal. So it's not one value that's normal, so that you see that my BMI is 21 and that's the perfect one. It's a range. So the green area that you see is the range of normal. This chart is for boys. Girls are a bit different. That's because our body compositions are a bit different. So because children have different heights, for example, a 5-year-old who height is 110 and weighs 20 kilos would be thinner than another 5-year-old whose height is 100 and also weighs 20 kilos. So both of them weigh 20 kilos, but one of them is taller than the other. So the taller one will appear lankier than the shorter one. So the BMI is calculated for a person's height, age, and sex. So that it's not like I will say that every 5-year-old should be 20 kilos. No, depending on your child's height, there's an ideal weight that should go for that child. And the range of normal is quite wide. As you can see, the green area is not so narrow. It's quite wide. So a child has a lot of opportunity to fall within this area without having issues. Then the yellow area is the 85th to the 95th centile, which is the point where we start worrying when they get overweight. Then the red area that's above is above the 95th centile, and that's the obesity area. And outside all of these things that I've said, as a parent, as a caregiver, oftentimes you take one look at your child without having to do all this calculation. You can tell if a child is overweight or not. Why? They will have more body fat than normal. They'll be a bit rounder than normal. Some of them may have some truncal obesity, like there's a lot of fats in the center there and all that. And then if you compare them with children, their age and maybe height, you see that they are a bit more round. So even without doing all these calculations, you can tell if your child is a bit on the overweight side. And then so the trend, there's been a worrying trend over the years. So actually the World Health Organization, the CDC, Center for Disease Control, have been following this trend of childhood obesity. As at 1990, it was 4.2%. By 20 years later, had gone to 6.7%. And then they had projected that by the time we hit 2020, there will be 60 million children who will be in the bracket of overweight and obese. In Ghana, there are studies that have been done. I just took one of them, but there are several. And this study was done in an urban center in Ghana. They used several schools, recruited a lot of children, then they did measurements for them. And it was found that up to 21% of the children in the study were obese. And if you add overweight to it, this goes to as high as 46%. So for 21%, that means 1 in every 5 children is obese. Then if you come to overweight and obesity together, it's like 1 in 2 children is either overweight or obese, because the record is almost 47%, which brings us to why this is extremely worrying. And in this study that they did, the prevalence was higher in private schools than in public schools. And I'm sure you all know why. I mean, most of the time, private schools are patronized by middle class, upper middle class to upper class. So they are in the private schools, and these are the people who have disposable income. And with this disposable income comes the privilege or the ability to be able to afford a certain kind of lifestyle. So the people in the middle class to upper class are the ones who will be buying tablets for their kids. They are the ones who will be buying KFC on a weekly basis or Burger King on a weekly basis, because they can afford it. They have disposable income to be able to do that. So the prevalence is higher in the private schools, and it's also higher in girls, also because of the natural body composition and then the basal metabolic rate. So it was found that it was much higher in girls, but 1 in 2 children is not something to joke about. And then, so the target here was that 60 million children by 2020 would be overweight and obese. And then on the 9th of June, 2021, there was a WHO report, and it says that was 340 million adolescents and children were either overweight and obese. That's between the ages of 5 and 19. So we had hit this target of 60 million and multiplied it by several factors to 340 million. This is 2021. I must say that this was contributed to by COVID, because when COVID came, there was lockdown, there was reduction in activity levels and all of that. Children were at home instead of in school. They were indoors. We couldn't mingle. So that actually saw a skyrocketing of the prevalence of overweight and obesity. And then this picture that you see there just talked about the trend over the years up to 2016. 2016, there were 43 million preschool children. Preschool children are like before age 1. And so as you can see, this is not, it's not something that we are exaggerating. When you Google, and interestingly, all those things I'm showing you are not from any hidden documents. You just go to YouTube, Google, and just Google childhood obesity, and you'll be amazed at how much data is out there. Then the numbers still, so it's a worldwide thing. I've talked about Ghana, I've talked about the whole world, and then the US also, they are also on a trajectory to try to curb obesity and overweight in childhood. And the first step to being able to do that is knowing how bad it is or what the prevalence, and they have said that it has reached an epidemic level. So there were 17 million children in the United States alone living as obese children. 1 in every 3 children and an adolescent, that's 2 to 19 years in the US, was either obese or overweight. This is quite staggering. Then why are we worried? The primary reason for me why I should worry is because it's something that we can prevent. So if something so preventable all of a sudden becomes so prevalent, then you're wondering what is going wrong. Are we forgetting something? Should we keep reminding ourselves of something? Should we relook at certain things in our lives? So here we are. Another reason why a healthy child would be healthy, is more likely to grow into a healthy adult. An obese child is more likely to grow into an obese adult. And this comes along with its attendance problems. So if you are obese, the thing is that you would get easily tired when you do certain activities. So because you are easily tired when you are active, you would try not to do those things that make you uncomfortable. So what happens? A child that's overweight will not play as actively with his friends that are normal weight. So as he's sitting down some more and not playing, then he gets to keep more weight, because then you're not burning as much. Because at the end of the day, the whole issue of overweight is just a misbalance between what you are consuming and what you are spending. If you are spending as much as you are consuming, then there's a fine balance, and then you don't have to be overweight. So this child that is already on the heavy side is not spending as much because he gets tired easily and doesn't want his friends to laugh at him. And then he sits out on games and play. He conserves more energy. He blows some more fat. He gets obese. Now he grows up like this, less social life, keeps to themselves. Then the whole cycle continues, grows into an adult that is obese, and this comes with all sorts of problems, which we would discuss. So another reason for the worries, what are the things that can contribute to obesity? There are things that are within our power most of the time. Even those that are not within, we can modify them. Family eating habits. Oftentimes when we see an obese child and we are telling the parents what to do, they go home and they try to do it for the child and it doesn't work. And I'll tell you why later on. Food advertising. Now when you sit in front of the TV, if it is not food, it is some alcohol, or it is some, I don't know, some weird song that is being sung for some weird drug. And the kids are saying this. How many times hasn't your child come to you and asked for a certain food that you didn't even know existed because they saw it on their tablet or they saw it on TV? We're advertising more soft drinks, so the children are looking at it and they wanted French fries. It looks very nice and appetizing, so they want that. Then we are exposing them to more and more unhealthy foods. The biggest culprit for me, I realized in my circle, was school. So the kids go to school, they eat lunch, but there's something we call snack that they have to take to school or take from school. And what are these snacks made of? My daughter came and told me that a friend of hers brings Coke to school every day. She wants to take Coke to school. And I'm like, not in my house. But then that's the thing. It's convenient to give them box juice to take to school. But should they be taking box juice every day? No. So this is some of the things, because like, what are you going to give them for snack? And many parents will say that my kids will not eat fruits if I give them, my kids will not eat this if I give them. So in order for peace to prevail, in order for you not to feel like they'll go hungry when they're in school, you give them what they will take, which will be that they will take biscuit to school or they will take juice to school every single day, 5 days a week. And that alone is a problem. Then availability of food. Again, I talked about middle class, upper class. The fridge is stocked. The children will just go there, pick whatever they need, and then, or whatever they want, they drink it, and then that is it. we are not giving them fruits. We are making excuses that my child doesn't eat vegetables. So when you give them fried rice, they'll pick out all the vegetables. And sometimes we see it as funny or cute, but these things have implications for us. And then decreased activity levels. Like, we are not as active as we used to be. The kids sit indoors. They watch a lot of TV. They watch a lot of tablets. As for the tablet epidemic, it's not even, if you get me started on that right now, I won't even finish. And it goes on and on. So they are conserving a lot, and they even get hungry faster when they are even watching some of these things. So then they eat more and then they gain weight. These are all things that we can control. And studies have also shown that if there's a family where either one or both parents are overweight, the tendency for a child to become overweight is also high. These have a bearing on maybe genetics or maybe activity level. And for we women, sometimes it's childbirth. You are a certain weight, but then after you have had a baby or two, then you see that you've sort of put on weight, and that weight is so difficult to lose. But then what that does is that your child also may unknowingly or even unintentionally go along that path, because then, I mean, it's viewed as the normal, so then it's fine. And the consequences of some of these things are that now we are seeing diabetes, heart disease, cholesterol problems, glucose intolerance. We are seeing all of those at a younger age than we used to see before. And when the kids are obese too, children are, we say they are cute, but they are quite honest to a fault. And they can be very brutal with their teasing. So a child can tease a fellow child so much that they become more introverted. There's depression, poor self-esteem, there's increased frequency of certain conditions like asthma, sleep apnea, sleep disturbances, sometimes early puberty because of excess adipose tissue. And actually, on the regular scale, I mean, people who are overweight and obese tend to have a shorter life expectancy compared to their leaner colleagues, because of the diseases that I've mentioned, which could happen. Again, this is a chart. So again, most of these things are online. You can see, they tell you the numbers, they tell you the risk factors, and then they tell you what to do to prevent it. You can even pick some of those things off and let your kids see them. Now we need to find a balance. What are we going to do? How do we balance how much this child is eating against what the child is expending, how much energy they are expending? This is going to be an act that every caregiver would have to master. And I picked this picture because, I mean, the one on your left, my right, because it says parents and kids should eat more food, not just kids. So it's going to be a whole lifestyle change that we have to balance. And it's also been shown that people who sit down to have family meals tend to have less issues with overweight and obesity, because then the meals are planned, and you see it's not like one person is hungry, what's there to eat, then we grab what's available and start eating, but the meals are planned. And then not skipping breakfast, limiting the amount of junk food that we eat. And in all of this, and then to get moving, and also to love the child unconditionally and to support them, so that it's not like, oh, why are you so fat? Why are you so this? Your sister is slim. Why are you this? Why are you that? It's always to help the child, tell the child the positive results of being not overweight as against being overweight, instead of picking on the negatives of overweight. Because what you put in there may worsen the problem. If they are feeling unloved, discriminated against, they withdraw more into themselves, and then they fall into depressive eating and all that, and that can just become a whole vicious cycle. Now let's talk about food. Since, I mean, you cannot be obese without eating. Some people say that, okay, my child just drinks a lot of water, but they're fat. Water cannot make you fat. Water does not have any calories. It's food that will make you put on weight, because that's where the calories are. So now, what should we be eating? I'm sure most of you have seen this thing before. You're tired, but we'll keep talking about it. So your plate, if you take your plate, what should be the makeup of your plate? So your plate should be made up of fruits and vegetables. Your plate should be made up of grains. Your plate should be made up of proteins. But now the proportions, we find ourselves in Ghana where if you're eating rice and kontomire stew, the rice will be so much on the plate, and the kontomire stew will be like a very small portion. It's like sometimes some of the kids, they don't even like stew, so the stew is like an afterthought. So the main meal is just a carbohydrate. But we need to try to shift away from some of these eating habits where our protein is, our carbohydrates is the main thing, and then we are just adding the other to accompany the carbohydrate. We need to switch it around and make the other one a more, what do I call it? The main part rather than the carbohydrates. I remember one time I traveled with a group of people, went to South Africa, and they gave us food. And the Ghanaians were complaining so much because the food will come, it will only be maybe some, the one crab that looks like sticks, not broccoli. Broccoli is like cauliflower, and there was this other one. Oh, it's quite nice. I've forgotten the name when I remember. So the food will be just that and meat, and there will be no protein, or the protein will just be a little mashed potato on the side. And Ghanaians were not happy at all because our culture, that's not how we eat. You eat banku, then you eat a little pepper and a little fish. The main food is the banku. The kenke is the main thing. The rice is the main thing. But other cultures do it differently, where the main meal is maybe the meat or the vegetable, and then the carbohydrates is something small. We need to try to start shifting from a heavily carbohydrate-based diet to a more mixed picture of our meals. I mean, children will be happier, of course, like the chubby child sitting there juggling the food. If you gave them burger and Coke every day, they'll be very, very happy. But you could actually also train them to eat things that are healthier, and they will still have fun with it. I actually picked this one because when I saw this picture, I thought, oh, I could do something with this. I could actually have this printed and put somewhere around where the dining area is, so that the kids will see it, and then everybody is involved. So when you involve them in the meal planning, you don't feel like it's an imposition. So it's not like you are forcing the child, eat this, but you plan the meals with them, you give them reasons for why they should eat what they are eating, and then you sort of have a balance. So the percentages are there, about a little over 50%, 60% of your meals should be more vegetables, then the fruits will take about 40%, your grains will take 50%, and your proteins will take 50%. As I've mentioned this, you can see that already on our plate. This is not how it works, because the rice is like 90%. And this rice is refined rice. Unfortunately, it's not use local rice, it's less refined. But now the local rice that I'm even finding on the market are so refined. But the less refined the food is, the more roughage there is, and the more fiber, the more filling it is, and then the more nutritious it is. But somehow we've developed a taste for a lot of the refined things, refined sugars and all of that, which are not helping us. So if your grains is supposed to take just 25% of your plate, and then your protein should take another 25%, your vegetables 30%, and your fruits 20%. You see how already, if you imagine your typical plate at home, it doesn't fit you. You need to engage the children and make it exciting for them. Now, this again is something that I like to talk about, is the food traffic light. When you see a traffic light, we all know this. There's something you should know. Red means what? Stop. Yellow is get ready, green is go. So yellow is like in between. You can be going or you can be stopping, depending on what the other side is doing. So green things are the things that you should be included in your meals every day. These are the grains, the vegetable. You see that bowl of oats over there? When I saw it, I just laughed to myself, because my kids will not eat oats to save their life. They took that from their father. And because of that, I also don't eat oats, because when you prepare it, it's just you that is going to eat it. I don't know why oats, people don't like it, but it's like a healthy food, but a lot of us don't like it. I don't know whether because it's slimy. But most kids don't like oats. Unfortunately, those are some of the things we should use every day. Wheat, also good, but a lot of children don't like it. The breakfast, what would they rather have? It's a challenge in my home when we do breakfast. Now we are stuck on Milo and bread and egg and maybe rice water. When you do rice water, they are going to make their faces, wheat, everything they complain. So you know how children can be. So it's not easy. But green foods are things you should be eating every day: wholesome proteins, wholesome carbohydrates, fruits and vegetables. Then the slow, that's eat sometimes. And this sometimes can be once in a week, once in 2 weeks. These are the fruit juices that are already packaged. These are foods like very refined food. So if you're going to eat maybe French fries, also quite soggy fried stuff, these are things that you eat once in a while. They are not everyday foods. And then the thing that you just hold yourself and stop. Let me add that the fruit juices I mentioned, that's once in a while. We can put our box juices there. And these box juices, they are taken to school every day with their meal. So you can just imagine how we are tipping the scale. Also bear in mind that some children will have this every day and they'll be perfectly all right running around, no weight gain, because again, they are expending more than they are consuming. Some children are super active and their metabolisms are very high. now the average person would take this and then it accumulates, and then it's results in weight gain. So refined sodiums, like all those crackers, all those Pringles, all those things with a lot of salt and sodium and calories per how many pieces, are things that we should stay away from, the pieces and all of that. Then the red are things that should just be once in a blue moon. It includes all the pieces, all the cake, burgers, if all of that. Fizzy drinks are also in that category. Again, I put fizzy drinks there, but most of us find in our homes that there's a lot of fizzy drink, but we take that a lot because we are drinking and the kids are drinking. As if you are drinking and they're drinking, how do you tell them to stop? They watch what you do when they start. These are supposed to be things that we should be taking once in a blue moon. Again, so this is another chart that has some of the foods that are in the areas that I mentioned. Some of these things are not quite common to our areas, but I'm sure we can find things that will be there. Again, see where fried chicken and all the things are there in the slope. But some of us, when we go to work, our main meal every day is fried rice and chicken, fried rice and chicken. This will cause us to gain a lot of weight because then it's a lot of fat process and calories that are being stored up. It's not easy, but it's doable. And you see where the coolest and all of the others are, the cakes and things. Cakes, yeah, cakes, I'm sure nobody eats cakes all the time, maybe birthdays and stuff. So those ones we can get away with, but the chips and all those other things that we eat so often, or we go to when we are feeling too lazy to make a meal, are things that we need to be on the lookout for. Now, I cannot, in this our day and age, talk about obesity and overweight without talking about screen time. It's become such a huge contributor to inactivity among children. In America, they say that an average child is spending about 5 to 7 hours a day watching a screen. How many hours are already in a day? 24. And if you are spending a third of it on a screen, you can imagine what that does. And once you are sitting in front of a screen, your energy expenditure goes down. So you are doing less and your appetite actually goes up. There's food advertising and all of that. So the screen time is one of the things that we really, really need to work on. There are recommendations for how much TV or how much screen a child should have, which was done on an international level, but these are quite challenging and they're not things to be done easily. But I mean, when you start doing them, you would, over the period, realize that it will yield results. Some of the problems that the screen time comes with is a lack of social interactions. We are having more kids coming with deviant behaviors or certain neurological problems. Like we are getting more kids on the autism spectrum. We are getting more kids with ADHD, hyperactivity. And then we are getting more kids with language delay. A colleague told me about a child he was seeing who was 3 and wasn't saying a lot of words. And the parents were quite worried. So when they came during the whole consultation, she noticed that the child was on the screen. So she asked the parents, how often does this child stay on the screen? Then they said, oh, most of the time they use it to keep her busy so that they can also go about their activities. And so when she's watching the screen, he talks to her, does she mind you? Oh, not really, and all of that. So he tries to engage them. Can we do away with the screen for maybe a week and see what happens? So they even moved away from the language delay that the child had, and then they were discussing the screen. But because the father was so concerned, he committed to do it. And in 3 months of continuously limiting this child's exposure to the screen and the tablet, he was interacting better with her siblings, and she started to speak words that previously she wasn't speaking. So it's causing language problems as well. And then I talked about the physical health, and then also sleep problems. Children will stay on the tablet so long, and once the tablet is on, they would not feel sleepy, but you collect it and in 5 minutes they are sleeping. They need to get balanced sleep for brain development, but somehow they are spending a lot of time on the screen being fed things. And again, the screen actually limits our imagination. When you and I were growing up, or our parents were growing up, it was more of radio. And so when the radio is speaking, you are imagining the things that they are saying. Your brain is creating pictures of it. Now we are looking at screens that already feed us pictures. So our imagination and our creativity is quite a bit dampened because of that. And this has certain implications. So what are some of the recommendations that have been made? They said for children under 2 years, no screen time is recommended. Why are we saying this? Under 2 years is from birth to 2 years is when the most brain development takes place. The child's brain absorbs what is in the environment and then assimilates, processes it, and develops in line with normal human development. So under 2 years is such a key period that when you expose them to too much screen, you may actually alter how this young brain is developing. So screen time is not recommended for children under 2 years. I know what I'm saying is bothering on the impossible for some people, because it's like, ish, what would I be? How would I keep the child engaged? But think about it. When we were growing up, there was nothing like screens, but we were so engaged. We still found ways to play and explore and grow up to where we are. The children can survive without screens. That's the first thing we need to tell ourselves. They would survive without screens. Then for children 2 to 5 years, an hour a day of quality or educative programming. Again, you have to select or pick what it is they are watching. Then for 6 years and older, you limit the screen time consistently, and then you monitor the media that they are exposed to. And we don't want also to make screen time part of a child's care or supervision. So sometimes we have helps that are working in the house, they want to do something, then they just give the child a screen. So if that help is going to work for 3 hours, the child will be on the screen for that long. Sometimes you come and complain, my eyes hurt, my head hurts, just because they've been staring at the screen for so long. And some of us too, I mean, again, middle class to upper class, you can afford it. So the kids have TVs in their room. They decide when to sleep, what they are watching and all of that. It's not helpful. I mean, yes, you can afford it, but you could use that money to buy something else that will lead to better health. Buy a bicycle instead of buying a TV. If they have a bike, don't buy a TV, something like that, because we need to limit the amount of screen time the kids are getting. It's causing a lot of problems for us. So again, find the balance between screen times and behaviors that are important to health, because once they're on the screen, they will not go outside and run around and play around. You and I used to run around outside, do some cooking, do all sorts of things. Now, the kids don't even know their neighbors because it's always indoors and watching one screen or one activity on the screen or the other. Now, how do we get the kids away from the screen? Again, you need to plan. You can't just stop abruptly. For some of them, for some you could do it. Again, I said they will survive without it, so it's not really a biggie. So you need to try to plan what they will do. So if they're, especially when they're on vacation, you're leaving for work, they're on vacation, I don't know, for them to sit in front of the TV, give them activities. Tell somebody to paint something, tell somebody to go and cut the very different kinds of leaves outside and paste it in a craft book. Tell them to go outside and ride bicycle, buy them skipping ropes, let them do stuff. When you're on vacation, it's pretty much challenging because you are working, you're on vacation, you can't really supervise. But when you start doing some of these things, then they adjust to it and they have fun doing it. Then it will be a go-to for them instead of an option because mommy doesn't want me to watch. So they gradually do it. But after a while, it becomes part of their habit. So they go outside to go and play. Then you need to turn off your TVs. You need to, at certain times of the day, TV can't be on every time. And then somebody wants to watch at any time, they can just sit and watch. Another thing, we need to build healthy habits for them to pick up on. So you can't insist that your child should read when they are not seeing you read. I myself had this experience where I have a lot of audiobooks, so I read on my phone. And then my husband drew my attention to the fact that, well, if you say your children should read, they don't know that you are reading on your phone. They are looking at you holding your phone. So how do you tell them to read when you are looking at your phone? So they have to move to hard copy books so that we are having family time reading. And we have instituted certain things where when it's 7:30, nobody should sit in front of the screen, pick a book, wind down for bed and all of that. You need to be strict in instituting some of the things. Again, it's not going to be easy, especially if it's not something you've been doing already, but it's doable and the kids will adjust. If there's something that they are good at doing, is adapting. So they will adapt. In my house, there's been no tablets for the past over a year and counting, and we are fine. Nothing has happened. Tablets got spoiled, laptop, screen, something. I said, I'm not buying, and I haven't bought them. We are fine. They come home from school, watch like an hour of TV, do their homework, play outside, take their bath, and then we are set for the routine. Unfortunately, now there's this new TV station called Kids Arena, which is trying to spoil my gains because they show cartoons all the time. So now they come and all the time there's cartoons, so they want to be watching. But yes, they can do without tablets, they'll survive. And then engage them, talk to them about their daily activities. What have they been engaging? That's actually when you also pick up on some of the information they've been given that may be wrong, things you can refine. You can pick up on bullying, and then you can pick up on their interests so that you can use their interests to get them away from the screen. Again, lead by example. You cannot be watching TV and tell your child to go and read. It's not going to happen. Agree daily on what time you need to do what. It's not punishment you're doing. You're just trying to keep a balance. Reward them for positive behavior. Start with small reductions. If the child is already watching so much, going cold turkey, you may have behavioral problems. So you can withdraw it gradually, replace them with other activities that they can do. And then games. Get involved as a family in playing games, board games. There's Scrabbles, Monopoly. Scrabbles will teach them how to read. Monopoly will teach them certain things about management, or Worry, Ludo, all those things that we used to do as kids. Reintroduce them. Let your kids also have a feel of what you had as a child. Okay, so I will pause here, and then based on questions we have, then we'll address any areas that haven't been tackled yet.
Wow, thank you very much. You were right on time, just exactly the amount of minutes I give you. That is the mark of a true professional. You designed your slides, just trust me, it's been great. Can you please go over the screen time for us again?
I know the screen time.
Yeah.
Like I said, the screen time thing. Now, it's not something we can talk about without in our day and age, because every family, once it's become fashionable to see kids. A child who comes to your consult room, the whole time you are talking to the child, they are on the screen. How are you, Craig? They are not minding you. Our children are losing valuable social skills because they are glued to the screen. And it's quite the same. Sometimes I just watch and the parents are helpless. They collect the screen from the child. The child is screaming. So then they give it back to the child. And I'm like, so who is in control, the screen or you? Because neither of you is in control. It looks like it's the screen that's controlling you both. And sometimes you don't even notice how much time, even you yourself, there's this thing on our phone called digital well-being. One day I just chanced upon it. When I saw the number of times it said I had spent online, I said, what the heck? It calculated that and calculated my, what do you call it? Google Map time that I was using to come home and go to work as screen time, So these things, you may not notice how much time it is until it's accumulated for you. Then you see that the child is spending a whopping third of their day watching a screen. And what are on this screen? They are being fed all sorts of things on social media, on just some of the YouTube cartoons. When you look at some of the things the children are watching, you are so shocked. And it's not just the content, but it's the time, because once they are sitting there, they are not expending energy. And once they are there the tendency is, I'm hungry, or I need to snack. They keep snacking, small snacking, just because they are distracted and all of that. And it's not easy. Again, let me come back to this particular one. For children under 2 years, it's a key time for brain development. Please, if you can avoid it, no screen time. If you want to do screen time, pick what you want them to watch. Select some videos that you think would help them learn about their body parts, count 1, 2, 3, and let them just listen to that 30 minutes a day or 2 episodes of 30 minutes a day. The brain is developing and is so easy to manipulate at that stage. So you don't want them, you want to limit what exactly they are exposed to. And then once you limit their screen time at that age, they are more active, they play around. So they sort of grow up with that. And then for those 2 to 5 years, please, 1 hour a day. And the others too, should engage more in activities. Stay away from the screen. It's difficult, but it can be done. They can survive without the screen. Yeah. My house, like
right,
thank
you very much. Thank you very much.
1 year, we are surviving.
Yeah. Thank you very much. Mine, they broke the screen, and I use that as an excuse not
thank
to.
You. Yeah.
Yes, thank you very much. So what I got was 0 to 2 years, no screen time. This is from the professional. No screen time.
Yes.
0 to 2 years, no screen time. Now, if you have any question, any queries, please put in the chat box in the comment section, and Dr. Annie will gladly answer all our questions. There was a question, first of all, Madam Giftio also says, what about the schools that have TVs in their classrooms? What's your advice to them?
So again, in the classrooms, So for TVs in the class, it actually depends on what they are trying to achieve, because some of the lessons for the preschoolers, again, they are trying to use audiovisuals to get the kids to follow learning process, to make learning easier. And in classrooms, they are not really playing. So those are controlled learning periods. But if it is that while the child has started learning the whole time and it's break time, instead of going out to go and be a bit active, then the TV is on for them to watch, and that's a bit problematic. I remember my kids started school, preschool, crèche, there was a TV in the class, and it used to play the videos for them about body parts. I mean, the crèche in particular. So it helps with audiovisual, and it's timed or it's controlled, so that it's not like they're just doing what they want. The content is picked by the school as part of the academic stuff. So that's okay. And again, during the class hours, they are sitting down anyway. So if there's a need to use that as a teaching aid, that's okay. Not that it's like break time, they're supposed to go and play, or meal time, then they are watching TV. No, not that kind.
All right. Yeah, just like you rightly said, most parents these days, because they are so busy, we are so busy, we use the screen time to get ourselves time to do what we want to do. That's what we are advising against. That's what the expert is advising against. If you have any question, please put in the chat box in the comment section. Dr. Annie has limited time, but she will attend to every question that is asked. So please feel free, put a question in the chat box in the comment section, and she'll gladly respond. This is a free specialist consultation, free pediatric specialist consultation. You won't get this commonly, all right? So she's quite busy, but she made time to have time with us. Please feel free, take advantage, and let's all learn together. Okay, somebody's also talking along the same line that the school that requires the kids to use the tablet for assignment, I think it falls along the same line, but I'll let them comment on it.
So there was this, one of my kids' former school, there was this parent who we had a teachers and parents meeting, and he actually told the school that I actually admired that guy that day, because I was doing limited screen time per day. And he was like, no, you can't give them some of this assignments during the week, because my kids use tablets only on weekends for 2 hours. So please fix those assignments for weekends, because I'm not going to break my rule. And he was so strict, and he had straight face, and then he just said, I was like, hey, levels there, because I thought I was doing well, and somebody has come and telling the school that no way, I'm not going to let them do those homeworks during the week because there's a rule. So they are supposed to use the tablets on. So again, it depends on your control, because if I'm going to give you the tablet 1 hour a day, when you come, you will fix your assignments into that 1 hour a day. So you are not going to play for 1 hour on the thing watching cartoons and then use another 1 hour to do the assignments. The assignments will now replace the screen, the thing you would have watched, and you can make a little allowance by letting them put maybe, what do I call it, watch some intermittent cartoon, 1 or 2, but they will do the work within the time allowed. You get it. So you can control it. It's all within your control. I really admired that guy that day when he was telling the school that, please, you need to modify the assignments for weekends, because my kids want to use tablets during the week. And I think they made an allowance for him.
All right. So the questions are now coming in, Doc. One person is asking, my boy is 1 year old. He doesn't want to eat, only breast milk. Can you make something brief about that?
Okay. So again, the other side of the divide is when children won't just eat. And we get a lot of parents coming and complaining about this. Sometimes it's because of our expectations. We are expecting them to eat a certain amount when their capacity is not that amount. So if the weight is good, if your child at 1 year weighs 10 kilos, between 10 and 12 kilos, that's fine. That means they're getting enough nourishment. So what you do is to go with their cue. So when they express, like when they feed and then they stop, you stop. And then when they want to, but it takes a lot of dedication. I know most mothers are working now. So getting somebody to feed one child a small bowl of food can be so challenging. But again, it will just take a lot of back and forth and a lot of try and error. Sometimes there are foods that they like. If you find something that they like and it's balanced, by all means, fall on it. We are not superhumans, and it's not easy to feed certain children. They can be extremely fussy, but it will come with a lot of try and errors. There are some foods that you start, they would even eat it. Then a few weeks later, they don't like it again. You abandon that, find others, come back to it months later, and they'll eat it. My kid just told me this morning that he likes short bread biscuit. I'm like, hey, since when? You always hated it. Now their grandmother has brought them some. All of a sudden, it's their favorite biscuit. I'm like, okay, fine. So they will come back to something that they hated before, something that they like. They will decide that I don't like it anymore. You have to do a lot of try and error and try to mix things up so that even if they get a little, it's calorie dense. So it's not like if it's just corn porridge and then they eat 5 spoons, you haven't gotten anything in. But if it's winner mix, that's multi-cereal food with milk, then that even if they get a little, sometimes we even ask certain parents to add things like groundnut oil to porridges, groundnut paste to porridge, just to fortify it. So if the child eats even just 4 spoons, it's high caloric, So it's not easy, but you would have to do a lot of try and error to get it. And the breast milk, once they are still breastfeeding, it's at 1 year, it's not going to provide all of the required nutrient, but it makes for a good snack. So yeah, you can just use it as in-between meal snack.
All right. All right, thank you very much. Somebody is asking, if a child is naturally obese, is there anything we do to reduce weight?
So I think that's what we've been talking about throughout, about how to lose weight. One,
Yes.
There's nobody that's naturally obese. Because again, like I said, it's a like this is me speaking like a professional, right? If I come to speaking like a mother, it will be a bit different, but as a professional, there's nothing like naturally obese. Some people may be more predisposed to putting on weight so that it appears that from their childhood, that's how they have been. But all that means is that there's an imbalance between how much they are taking in and how much energy they are spending. So one of the ways you can do it, because it's one of two things. You are either going to reduce how much they are taking in or modify how much they are taking in, or you are going to increase their activity level. I always talk about skipping rope. The kids love to skip and run around with a rope, and it's cheap and they can do it in the house. And the foods too, it's very difficult to say that you are putting a child on a diet because they are growing children, they require nutrients. So what you will need to do is reconstitute the food. They will still get full, but what is in the food will be less calorie, less carbohydrates. So more of grains, more of fiber, more of proteins, so that they are still growing optimally, but then they are maintaining a good weight. Because what happens if the child is obese and you say modify the diet, then people start putting the child on all sorts of weird diets that like the things adults do. The child cannot do keto, the child cannot do intermittent fasting, all those things that we adults have the luxury of doing. You can't put a growing child on those things because their brains need fuel. So it will be you reconstituting the food into something else so that they can sort of grow well and still maintain a good weight.
Good. Thank you very much for the response. And if I should reiterate your very important point, because I like quoting from experts, there is nothing like a child that is naturally obese. You may have a higher tendency prone to becoming, but there's nothing like a child that is naturally obese. It's about input, output. Thank you very much, Dr. Annie. There's a question. How do you get kids under 4 years to eat vegetables and fruits?
This is the $1 million question. So I have 2 children, very, very different. Even now I'm struggling. One of them is 7. Right from when he started eating, I will give him salad and he will eat. He will eat all kinds of fruits that I'm eating. If I give him to try, he'll eat it. Sometimes he eats it and tell you, I don't like this one, but I'll try it. Then the other one who came after him, you will beg her to eat vegetables. She will pick them out of her food. You would give her maybe fried rice with the carrot. She will pick everything out. Peas, she will pick them out. She won't take salad. You give it to her, she will not eat it. You force her to eat it, it's going to be a lot of crying. So last time I made jollof. This time around, I blended the carrots and everything. I made a jollof with all the green pepper. I blended it all into the jollof sauce and made a jollof with it. So when she finished, I told her that, oh, guess what? You just ate carrots. She was like, where? And I said, it was part of the jollof you ate. So one of the ways to get them to sort of eat some of these things is that they maybe don't let them see it. Add it to the food. So I found out that when I decided, I was like, okay, so this girl, this is what I will do now because she needs to get her vegetables, but I can't get her to eat it if I gave her salad. So what would I do? I would just add it to the food, blend it with it. Kontomire, she likes kontomire too for some reason. So I fall on it most of the time. She'll eat rice and kontomire. She'll eat cocoa and kontomire. She'll eat yam and there was a time she came up with a food called konto rice, which was supposed to be her favorite food at the time. That's kontomire rice. So if you find one that they like, sort of go on it, and the others just blend them up and then add it. As they are growing, they may hopefully develop a taste for seeing it and eating it without you having to talk plenty. I saw somebody who I saw online, somebody who started weaning her kids, and she started with purees of vegetables. So she would puree carrots, she would puree green pepper. So then she just adds it. So according to her, she did it for her first child. So the child develops a taste for it. So when they eventually eat the main vegetable, it's a taste they already know. And I thought that was very brilliant. This was a mother online, and I thought it was a great idea. Puree it for them, and then later when they grow a bit and they see it and they taste it, it doesn't feel strange. Yeah. So there are
I think that was a very smart way. Some of us didn't have that luxury. Some of us moved from breast milk straight to Banku, but that's not what we are talking about now. All right. So somebody is saying that my boy likes eating a lot of everything, vegetables, etc., and he's more round with protruding belly. Is it obesity?
The simple answer or the complicated answer?
Both, please.
So he's likely to be overweight or obese. I can't tell. We need to do like measurement. But from what you've described for me, I already see a child that's overweight. As to whether overweight and approaching obesity if we are not already there, because you said he's a bit round. So for this child, what we'll try to do will be portion control. It's difficult to do that for kids, or limit them, or again, reconstitution. So they're eating a lot of rice. Okay, how about you decrease the quantity of the rice and then give them an extra piece of meat? I mean, meat is not cheap in today's Ghana, but you get what I mean. And I would have said eggs, because eggs are filling. Now, one egg is costing like 2 cedis, 3 cedis. It's not cheap, but the long-term benefits would be great, because eggs are also quite filling, and you can give a child an egg every day. We pediatricians love eggs. So you need to reconstitute some of the things. Give them things that are more filling. There are some foods that have a high satiety index. So when kids eat more of that, they are fuller for longer, and they don't have to eat so much of it to get full. They are the high fibers, oats, and those kind of things, wheat, unrefined rice. All those things are more filling than the refined stuff. The refined stuff, the aim is to get you to keep buying. So if you eat more, you buy more. So the plan is to sort of replace some of the refined things with high fibers so that they get full for longer. And then when it comes to snacks, maybe give them things that are high in fiber. Granite and banana, they are wholesome. They are usually around. You can give them that. Those are quite filling and very healthy. And then for this child, I don't remember if you said the child's age, but increased activity can also help with the child. Go on leisure walks with the child. Let them play. If they don't buy a bicycle for them, let them ride around, sweat up a bit. You yourself start something like an exercise. You are skipping, you want to skip, let them do it. So you need to find ways. And if the child is spending a lot of time on TV, then you know what to do, because we've talked about that, because that time can be spent outside playing or doing something that would expend more energy.
All right, thank you very much. This presentation has been very practical. What I've noticed is Dr. Annie has been both a professional pediatrician at Kolebu and at her home as well. She's practicing everything she's preaching, and that's very, very impressive. Thank you. For somebody's asking for her kids, the juice they use is Tropicana. Is it good for her to continue since it's 100% fruits? If not, recommend another option.
Okay, I don't know Tropicana. I mean, I don't know what juice that is. There are some on the market that are definitely less refined than others. I remember when I was trying to move away from this juice and I went to buy a Kumfi juice. And then my children just shied me poto with the juice. They didn't like it one bit. I made a mistake by buying pineapple and ginger, and the taste of ginger just put them off. When I even bought the pineapple, they wouldn't even try it. Meanwhile, I know that was 100% natural. They would not take it. So unfortunately, I failed along those lines. I can't tell what it is to be written on the pack and all of that. But if they could even do the fruit itself, that's a recommendation I give. So my kids, if I cut up oranges for them to take to school, they would eat it and be happy. If I cut up apples for them to take, they will eat it. One of the older one, if I gave him pineapple, he will eat it happily. Even the younger one, the middle one is my in quotes problem child. So some of them eat it, some will not eat it, but you could try that, like the whole fruit, because that comes with a lot of fiber. Because if you are juicing maybe orange for them, you may have to use 3 or so oranges to fill a small bottle. But then if you give them a whole orange with the roughage and everything to eat, they will probably be full on 1.5 or something. So that's another way to look at it. If they will eat it, you could just cut up fruits and put in a nice bowl for them, and then they can eat that at school. And the juice packs, I can't tell all the juices on the market, but again, you can read the labels. Those with added sugar and all those things are not good. So if you find some that is natural, well, you can stick to it. But the fact that it's packaged also means that it comes with preservatives. So you want to also limit how much of it they're taking. It's not easy because it's very convenient to just put a juice in the bag. So I know it's not easy. As a mother, I know how hard that can be. Yeah.
All right. Thank you very much. If you have any question, any queries, please put it in the chat box in the comment section. We have a few minutes more to go. Dr. Annie is willing to answer your questions. Again, I say this is a free specialist consultation. Put your questions in the chat box. And I see how this presentation has metamorphosed into a dietitian, nutrition expert, advisor, all everything put together. Yes, so please feel free. Somebody says, my 3-year-old daughter says, I don't love her when I stop her from watching cartoons on my phone. And I feel so bad. What can I do?
Please, first of all, stop feeling bad, because you know why you're doing what you're doing. So children can be manipulative, and they will use all these words sometimes without even meaning them, because again, they are hearing it from somewhere. So the first thing to do is stop feeling bad, because you know why you are refusing, and you know it's for a good reason, So what you now need to go away from is, one of my friends' child told her, I don't love you anymore. And she actually said, it's okay, keep your love for now. Right now, cry if you love me. You will not do anything for me. Like a joke. So you can turn it into a joke. Or when they say, I don't love you, tell them, I love you anyways. Kids say words, and then they'll pick up on words that you say. So first of all, stop feeling bad. A parent said, oh, no, if you take the tablet from a child, there'll be a lot of shouting and all that. I was like, if you do it 3 times in a row and they realize that you would do what you say you do, sometimes even as punishment for bad behavior, I would take away your screen. They would stay in line. The first day they may scream. If you relent and you give it to them, then they know that mommy has a breaking point. So then they keep pushing their limits. But if they realize that 3 days in a row, you have stuck to your word, they didn't put their plate in the sink and you took the tablet 3 times in a row, they will know that once the plate is not in the sink, they won't get it. So you can use it as a form of reward for good behavior. And then again, children, we gave birth to them, and it's our responsibility to train them. So when we start early to train them and shape them, it's easier when they are growing. But if you wait till a certain age, then they have all this misbehavior, and then they react towards the new things you want to institute. But again, that it's for their own good. And since you are an adult and you know more than they know, whether they like it or not, you would have to do some of those hard things and then ignore some of the things they say. At the end of the day, if they become good children, they are for your benefit and the benefits of the nation also.
Yes, it's all about behavior modification. Some of us we grew up and later on appreciated our parents for the things they did to us that we didn't like at the time. So after some time, your child may begin to love you for the good things that you were training him or her to do. If you have any question, please put it in the chat box in the comment section. Dr. Annie will gladly help us with that. Feel free. We have a few minutes to go. And those who join us late, please, the recording will be made available on the YouTube channel. You can please just subscribe to the channel. I'll put it in the comment section on Zoom. You can feel free to subscribe to the channel. I'll post the recording immediately after. I'm actually enjoying the presentation. I'm learning as well to know what to do. But I was quite impressed at the mother who was doing the puree of the fruits, to get the child to have the taste for such fruits.
Yeah.
That was quite ingenious, I must say. I've never thought about that, of course.
What she was even using, she used, the ice cube containers we have in our freezers.
Yes, yeah.
So she purees the thing, then maybe if she's pureed carrots, it goes in one ice cube pack, then maybe another vegetable will go in another. So then she freezes all of them. So when it's a child's meal time, she will just pick one of each, or one for whichever day, and then add it to the regular food. And her older child eats vegetables and eats salads and all of that, because that's how she started. So it was a very brilliant thing I discovered that she did. I was like, wow, that's quite impressive. Yeah.
Now this is making me understand why I don't like taking salad. It's not like salad is bad. but I didn't have the, from the childhood days, I wasn't brought up with it. I now understand why I know myself. It's because I wasn't taught. My people, it's not my fault. But then I have to teach my kids the best way. All right. So somebody joined us late, but he's asking, how do you know your child is obese? Doc, in a brief sentence, what do you have to say to that?
Okay, so there's an ideal weight for every child's age, height, and sex. So the simple thing is, if your child seems rounder than usual, less active, a bit plump for their age or compared to their colleagues at a certain age, it may just be that they are overweight or approaching obesity. That's the crude way of telling. You can tell. The other way is, doing the scientific way, taking the height measurement, taking the weight, finding their BMI, and then plotting it. The BMI is a ratio of the height to the weight, and then plotting it, and then seeing where the child falls on the graph. I had this graph. I don't know if I can still go back to that, which I was using to talk about the range of normal. That one. So the green area. So if you plot, you can find these charts online. They are readily available. You plot for your child, like if you did a BMI, your child was, say, your child is 10 years and then weighs, the BMI fell at, say, 20, 10 years to 20. You see that it falls within the green area on the 75th centile curve. So that means that that child is normal. The range of normal is wide. If the child falls in the yellow, then they are overweight. If they fall in the red, then they are obese. That's the scientific way of doing it. But again, you can take a look at your child and decide that, other 5-year-olds don't look this round, so this child might be overweight.
All right, thank you very much. All right, so a parent made a contribution in the comment section on Zoom. She's saying that these days, for kids to go out and play, it's no more safe. When we were growing up, neighborhood was safer. These days, it's no more that safe. So what would you advise? That we encourage activity, physical activity, children to go out and play. What would you advise, knowing the current situation where neighborhoods are no more as safe as they used to be?
Yeah, that's very true. I totally agree. Right now you can't even drive and offer somebody a lift. When we were growing up, we used to get lifts all the time, but now you are picking somebody in your car, you are worried.
Yeah.
So let me tell you what I do. So my kids, we live in a place that's gated. So they go outside the compound, they play. That's control. That's my controlled environment. I can hear them. Even sitting here, I can hear them and I can see them if I stood up. So they can play outside with minimal supervision at their age, 7 years. But if they were going to go outside the compound, which we sometimes do, I'm going for a walk, then that means somebody has to accompany them. Sometimes I send them to go to the neighborhood shop with maybe my help, or sometimes myself. Let's go and buy pineapple and come. Let's go and buy oranges. So we go walk and come back. And sometimes when they're coming, they decide to race between themselves to see who comes back. That's just me trying to find ways of getting them active without losing focus. So I don't let them go outside the gates and just roam about by themselves. Because again, I'm also conscious of security, and then the threat that we have with kids these days. So if you can have somebody go with them, supervise them. It's not long periods. So even you yourself, you come home, 30 minutes, go for a walk with them, engage them. Or whilst you are even playing with your phone, the time that you decide that you are checking all your messages, you are sitting outside and then they are hopping around, jumping with some rope or attempting to skip. I kind of have fun trying to watch my people try to skip. It's very funny, but that gets them jump, get active. And then you see, so you can find ways of being innovative without putting them at risk, yes, of a security threat. You have to find ways of being innovative.
Yeah.
So we can't them indoors too because of the security problem. Then there's also, we are creating another problem by trying to solve one.
Yes. So the risk, it's about risk-benefit ratio. So if you keep them indoors because you are afraid they will go out, and so do something at home. Just be innovative. Skipping rope, playing on your compound, your small compound, riding bicycle, something within controllable allowance for you to have them be active. Children love to be active. They love to be free. They come with that tendency. They just want to be free. So we shouldn't. And I like what you said about there is no child. So I'm quoting you. I wrote it down. Nothing like a child that is naturally obese. All parents need to get that. Sometimes we say, oh, this is naturally obese, so I don't want to do anything about it. There's nothing, and that is coming from the expert. Nothing like a child that is naturally obese. It's all about inputs, output. There is work to be done. We all need to work on that. All right. So any more questions? We have a few seconds. Now it's seconds, no more minutes. We have a few seconds to go. Feel free to put a question in the chat box in the comment section. Dr. Annie will gladly help us all. Those who join us late, don't worry. We don't have to go back for you. I'll post the recording on YouTube shortly. So if you have not subscribed yet, please feel free to do so. I've shared a link again on the Zoom comment section. Does early weaning contribute to obesity? My child stopped sucking breast at 4 months and was on none for the rest of his 1 year.
Okay, so during the advocacy for exclusive breastfeeding, which we do 6 months of, I know benefits have been said that children who are formula fed have a more predisposition to obesity and all of that. But again, it all comes down to finding a balance, because not everybody would be able to do 6 months of exclusive breastfeeding. And actually the recommendation is for 4 to 6 months. So you actually doing 4 months is not so bad. 4 to 6 months. We always just say 6 months because it was saving us the trouble of having kids come with diarrheal diseases because somebody was not washing their bottles well and all of that. But we understand that not everybody can go up to the 6 months. So if you're able to do 4 and then you use formula, I'm sure the child was not on none alone till the 1 year. You started adding other foods after 6 months. So again, it's about finding balance. Most kids at that age would be a bit chubby, but then as they are growing and they are lengthening, they would grow taller, and then the truncal obesity that they naturally have at that age would reduce. So I don't think it should be much of a problem if you're able to find a balance for this child growing, having regular activity, balancing that with good eating. They should be fine. It shouldn't be a problem.
All right. Yeah. So for our guests on Zoom, doctor says a 4 month, it's exclusive breastfeeding. Technically, it should be for 4 to 6 months. But if you've done that and you're doing NAN1 and other things, just follow the recommended guidelines to make sure there is a balance. That's what is most important. And early weaning, like you said, doesn't contribute to the obesity. That's what Annie, am I paraphrasing you well?
Yeah.
All right, good. Any last minute question before we allow our special guest speaker? You guys have no idea how difficult it is to have such people presenting on such topics, because they are very busy at work. And you can see she somehow answered my question. She's a mother of 3. She said it in a comment. She's a mother of 3. She's practicing everything she's teaching us here, not only to her clients, but also she's practicing strictly just that. Imagine
it's not so strict, so we are trying. It's not so strict, but we are trying because we need to find a balance.
But I think practically a lot of parents, including myself, can learn a lot from you as well, because you know what has to be done and you are trying your very best. Of course, there won't be perfection, but you keep trying to achieve perfection, and that's very admirable. Any more questions? Any more questions? Any more questions? Or even contribution? No problem. Thank you all very much for your audience. We appreciate you joining us, and it's been very interactive. We've had a lot of people join us from the beginning, and I've had a lot of contributions, especially from a particular person. I see Madam Gladys Pratt Myers. Madam Gladys Awochi, she's been contributing and asking questions as well. We appreciate you. Thank you very much. Any more questions? If there are no questions, I will just use this opportunity to say a big thank you to Anne. But before that, Dr. Anne, childhood obesity, a worrying trend. You stated that childhood obesity has hit epidemic levels in the USA, and it's rising very fast in Ghana. I've quoted that. I've shared it on my WhatsApp status already. What will be your parting words for us?
So my parting word is that even though it's a problem, it is preventable. And the prevention lies with us. It's something we can modify our lifestyles to prevent. We don't wait for it to get to areas where you have to now come and be looking for medication to get your child to lose weight, or your child your child develops certain diseases before you now become aware of it. There are things that we can prevent with lifestyle choices. So let's sort of get on that ride and then try to prevent it rather than wait for it to happen and then look for solutions to it.
All right, so thank you very much. Childhood obesity is preventable with healthy lifestyle choices. We've heard from the expert specialist pediatrician, Dr. Annie Owusu. We appreciate it so much. Please, everyone on the call, please join me. Say thank you, Dr. Annie, for making time to share practicalities of this fast rising epidemic that is approaching us. We hope it doesn't, because it's already happening somewhere else. And it's real because we see it all around us. Somebody just chat me on Facebook, was asking me, he thought he was the only one seeing obese children, especially in private schools, not knowing the health experts have also seen it. Because when I asked Dr. Annie to present on any topic she wanted, outrightly, she said she's going to talk about childhood obesity. And I was like, wow, all right. So that's it. A lot of people have noticed that it's a worrying trend, and we have been educated on what to do. I like the fact of them reconstituting the food. If they don't like fruit and vegetables, you can blend it, constitute your sauce with it. There are very innovative ways to get a child to develop the taste. Don't let your children grow up and become like me, who don't like salad that much because he or she wasn't introduced to salad tastes earlier on. Don't let your child move from breast milk to banku like me. Let's all know better. There's an adage that what you learn late, you teach your children early. So that's why we are here, to learn and teach our children. Thank you very much, Dr. Annie. We appreciate your time. We will call on you again. We are like Oliver Twist. We will call on you again, and we hope to have your presence again with us to educate us more. Thank you very much, every one of you, for joining. If you join us late, no problem. I'll be sharing the recording shortly on YouTube. If you've not subscribed yet, take just 3 seconds. Click on the link in the Zoom link and then just subscribe. When I post any video or I go on live on any topic in the future, you can get to benefit. And we've had several topics in the previous weeks where you can go watch them, ask any questions you so much wish, and we will respond to you on the YouTube channel. Thank you very much. I appreciate your time. And once again, until we meet again, it's been a plum pleasing pleasure serving you all.